Let's go! Giants! Let's go!
What is going on, guys? This is the Inside the Booth podcast, episode number 8, and tonight we are breaking down the New York Giants. Gotten a ton of news over the past few hours, and it's time to break it all down as we talk about the recent signings for the Giants. We look at it. Daniel Jones is getting a 4-year, $160 million deal. We know about that. We know about the Saquon Barkley franchise tag. But the new thing is that Sterling Shepard is getting a 1-year, $1.3 million deal. Jamie Gillen, the punter, is getting a 2-year at $4 million deal. Raheem Nunez-Roche is getting a 3-year deal with the Giants as he's playing defensive tackle for the team. We got Matt Breida back on a 1-year, $2.3 million deal. Solid backup to back up Saquon Barkley. We got Bobby O'Reek from the Indianapolis Colts on a free agent signing. That's probably one of the biggest splashes the Giants have made this offseason, as he's getting a 4-year, $40 million deal. He's a solid linebacker who's gotten a lot of tackles these last 2 seasons, 280 plus tackles. And we also see that Darren Waller is the new tight end for the Giants. So you have Darren Waller and Daniel Bellinger as your 2 tight ends. And that's a solid pair. You know, I liked Daniel Bellinger last year. Had a lot of good catches. Obviously, he had the eye injury, which was very scary to see. But nonetheless, I thought Daniel Bellinger had a solid rookie year. I think he's pretty decent at blocking. And I thought he had a good year. But, Joe Shane stated that he wanted to get Daniel Jones weapons. And Darren Waller is a solid start for them. And if we look at the draft, they're picking at 25. And I just don't see the Giants getting Jackson Smith-Njigba or Quentin Johnson or really any like the top 3 wide receivers. They could maybe get a guy like Zay Flowers or something like that. I think Zay Flowers is solid, but obviously he does not compare to Jackson Smith-Njigba or Quentin Johnson. But, I think we're also forgetting that, Wando Robinson, when he was healthy, he wasn't bad. He was pretty explosive, but just the injuries caught up to him. And let's get back to Darren Waller. Health has been a concern for him over the last, few seasons. But, his 2019 and 2020 season were his best seasons when he was healthy. He played 16 games. In 2019, he had 90 receptions for 145 yards, and a 12.7 average per catch, and also 3 touchdowns. And then in 2020, he upped his touchdowns to 9. He had 11.2 average, so lower than he did in 2019. But he had more yards. He had 1,196, along with 107 receptions. So we know, when this guy is healthy, he's a stud, and that's what the Giants need from him. They needed, a really good tight end. It's tough to find, really solid tight ends that could just ball out, and to get Darren Waller is huge. And he's a top 5 tight end, when healthy. We know the Mark Andrew and, the Travis Kelce, the George Kittle, and I think Darren Waller is, right behind that, either 4 or 5. But, also, with the new signing of Raheem Nunez-Roche, he's solid. I think he's pretty decent at his position. I think last year was really maybe starting to be a breakout year for him. As we see, he had 2 sacks last year, 33 combined tackles, 19 of those were solo, and also he had 3 QB hits and 5 tackles for loss. So, nothing really much. I still expect Dexter Lawrence to be the leader on that defensive line. Dexter Lawrence was amazing last year. Everything he did was explosive, getting to the QB and, creating a lot of havoc. That's what I expect for Dexter Lawrence next year. And we get into the NFC East news. A lot of stuff happening. We look at the Philadelphia Eagles first. Travis Kelce, obviously, we signed. Darius Slay gets released. We don't know if they're going to work out a contract, but it looks like Darius Slay is on his way out of Philadelphia. Boston Scott re-signed, so he has been the Giants' killer. Most of his touchdowns have come against the Giants as well. Rashad Penny, he signed with the Philadelphia Eagles, and also Bradbury re-signed with the Eagles. And to finish things off, Fletcher Cox got a one-year $10 million extension. We look at Dallas now. They go all out for a 5th-round pick just to acquire Stephon Gilmore from the Colts. They re-signed Leighton Vander Esch, and they're soon to release Zeke Elliott, but they franchise tag Tony Pollard, and I think that's a smart decision for Dallas. I think Tony Pollard is a lot more versatile than Zeke. I think the catching and the receiving is just a strong suit for Tony Pollard's game, and that's why he kind of overtakes Zeke in that role. And I think just Tony Pollard is just better. I think in just so many categories, and I don't know who's gonna get Zeke. When he obviously goes to free agency, but I think some team will probably go after him because he's not bad. He's more of a power back now. Back in the day, he's really elusive, but he's lost some of that speed. We look at the Washington Commanders. They signed Andrew Willie and they re-signed Daron Payne. Daron Payne's solid, but I don't really see much for this Washington Commanders team. I don't even know who their quarterback is really going to be. Either Sam Howell or somebody else. I believe they actually signed Jacoby Brissett too today. We look at the Giants. Some notable signings and trade. They traded for Darren Waller just for a 3rd-round pick. They obviously re-signed Daniel Jones as their future QB, and also Saquon Barkley. And hopefully, Joe Shane could keep on adding to these weapons for Daniel Jones because, Darren Waller is great and all, but, I think maybe one more piece at maybe wide receiver could be nice. But, we look at this Giants team, they still need holes. They still have a lot of holes in this team. And I really wonder what they do in the draft. I really want Simpson from Clemson, but I don't know if he'll be there. He's a solid linebacker, but, hopefully this team could really turn things around after, I guess you could say, an unforgettable run. This team coming into the year, not really high expectations. We didn't know what Brian Dable was going to bring, or Wink Martindale, but they find a way to have a 9-7-1 record and make the playoffs for the first time in a while. And that's a huge, huge step in the right direction for this Giants team, because now it's like, what is next for this team? They have a tough schedule next season, and so does Philadelphia, but, my main focus is on the Giants right now. And this NFC East is also getting a little tougher. I'm not really scared of Washington, but, Philly, they're losing some guys, and I wonder who they're going to, maybe get, whether it's in the draft or free agency. And, Dallas going, and trading for Stephon Gilmore, and now they have Trayvon Diggs and Stephon Gilmore. That's a solid 1-2 punch at cornerback. And they got a solid defense under Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn has really shaped that defense around. It's really, I think, just what Dak Prescott is going to do. I think he's really, I don't know if he's their guy, but, he's the guy that's getting paid the big bucks, so they're going to need him to perform. And, getting back with the Giants, I really want this team to get better quickly. Because I don't think they're that far behind Dallas. They've had some close games. The game on Thanksgiving was pretty close. They played a close game. Philadelphia, we know, they killed us. When they were at East Rutherford MetLife Stadium, they killed you. But I think the Giants are closer to Dallas than they are to Philadelphia. It's really just the development of Daniel Jones. Whether he performs and he's worth the $40 million, or he underperforms and it looks like one of the worst contracts in Giants history. But I think Daniel Jones just needs a few more weapons and to upgrade this offensive line. I think Andrew Thomas looks like an all-pro now. He looks like one of the best offensive tackles in the NFL. But we can't only have Andrew Thomas as a good offensive lineman. They need, have another. They need to have a better year out of Evan Neal. Last year his footwork was bad. He was getting beat easily, and people would just attack him, and they would go right by him and get to the quarterback very easily. But if they can get a really good year out of Evan Neal next year, that is your franchise tackles right there. Evan Neal on the right side and Andrew Thomas on the left side. And when you look at film, really you don't see Andrew Thomas being the reason why the defense is getting to Daniel Jones. It's really just the middle pack of that offensive line, and that's why they need to get better at that position. They need to get a better cornerback aside from Adoree Jackson. Linebackers have been a big struggle. Landon Collins isn't that guy. He's decent, but he's not like that game changer that you need. But this is a Giants team that I'm excited for. I'm really excited for the draft, and once that happens, we'll definitely break it down. But the dream is definitely Simpson from Clemson, and hopefully they get a solid wide receiver. Either they're trading up, or they stay at 25. I don't really see them moving from 25 because I don't see really any NFL team moving their pick with how loaded this draft class is. But I'm excited for next year. It's going to be a hard schedule. We know that. We know what we're getting into. Versus some tough teams like the Bills, the 49ers, obviously the Eagles and Dallas twice. Not really too worried about the Commanders because I think they're bad. I think the Commanders are very bad. They have some pieces like Chase Young, Scary Terry McLaurin. But, their QB situation's a question mark. And there's some other pieces that I think they need to improve on, just like the Giants. By no means am I saying this Giants team is super good. I think this team still needs improvement, and I'm very critical of this Giants team. I don't think Daniel Jones is worth the $40 million, but he's your guy, and that's where Joe Shane is going to, and it's honestly whether you get Daniel Jones back for that $40 million, or you go out and sign a guy like Baker Mayfield. But Baker Mayfield is now in Tampa Bay on a 1-year deal, and I really expect this Giants team to be good. But I think they'll be right around 8 to 9 wins. I think that's. I'm not asking for too much. If they can get 9 wins again, that'd be huge, But, they're playing a tough division, and we know last year they versed some bad teams. They versed the Bears, they're bad. They versed the Texans, Panthers, a lot of bad teams, and, maybe that's one of the reasons why they were good last year. But who knows? It'll be definitely super interesting to see with this Giants team. I'm your host, Vin, and this is going to wrap up episode number 8 of the Inside the Booth podcast. As always, click that bell for notifications, and always let's keep getting this account growing. And it's been another good episode of the Giants. As always, so long, and let's go Giants, baby.